We are continuing with our coverage here at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, and with me now is the keynote speaker. You all know him as a media mogul. He's also the author of the Canadian Manifesto, How One Frozen Country Can Save the World, Lord Conrad Black. I never thought I would have you on the program. Welcome to the show, Lord Black.
Pleasure's mine, Daniela.
Many people might not know that you have a long history actually tied to mining. Because some people are surprised, saying, what is Conrad Black doing speaking at a mining conference? But tell us a little bit about the message that you're bringing today.
Well, our old company, which I transformed into a newspaper company, was the old Hollinger Mines. It was one of the greatest gold mines in Canada, and it branched out into iron ore, and we continued with that right up until I sold it to what's now the Brookfield Group. It was Brascan at the time, but we were the first and foremost of the iron ore suppliers in northern Quebec and Labrador, when it was feared that the Mesabi range would simply run out of ore, and it was before the beneficiation process was devised. So I wouldn't want to overstate it, but I have a pretty good background on the financial side of the mining business.
Now, in your book, you outline how Canada hasn't really fully reached its potential, and it's not capitalizing on our natural resources as much as we should be doing. Why don't you outline some of the things that the current government should be looking at?
Particularly afflicts the energy business now, but we have two phenomena that have taken place more or less at the same time. One to the benefit of this country, and the other to the disbenefit of it. When China locked on the idea of economic growth, the buyer's market for natural resources, base metals and precious metals and energy ended. It used to be, and I was the biggest shareholder, or our company was, of the old Noranda mining company, Noranda Group, which was the second largest resource company in Canada after Canadian Pacific. We were a large presence in various base metals, some precious metals, oil, gas, forest products, all of that. You never had a time when they were all clicking at once. And whenever a great importer of base metals detected the dangers of a price increase, Japan was the principal one, they would bring more production online, even though it would be unprofitable on itself. It would help keep the price down overall, and that was what we were fighting. But once China went for economic growth and India emulated them, representing almost 40% of the population of the world, it really became a producer's market. And this was a great thing for Canada, but almost at the same time, we had the international left take over after their defeat in the Cold War and their defeat domestically in the United States and the United Kingdom by Reagan and Thatcher. They piled into the environment movement, which was in those days really conservationists and Greenpeace, and they could be annoying, harassing American aircraft carriers and things when they came into port, but they were basically decent people trying to preserve the environment. Once the international left decided this was the way to attack capitalism and masquerade as saving the planet as they did it, it put Canada in a situation that required a level of political leadership we do not at the moment have to deal with, where there's such agitation for the shutdown of the oil and gas business, especially the oil business. It's doing terrible damage to Alberta and to the national unity of the country. And we're in many ways inhibited from taking maximum advantage of what we have.
And you've been very vocal about your criticism towards Justin Trudeau, saying, you don't have anything against him personally, but after his victory, I read one article where you're saying we're in for a couple more few tough years here.
Well, it seems to me that the government's response to the legitimate problems that there are is an over-focusing on gender issues, climate matters, and native questions. Now, they're all issues that have to be addressed, but they aren't the principal issues. And if you're not any country, and any government in any country, if it's not addressing the principal issues, is going to get into difficulties.
What's the top priorities for you? Is it financial growth? Is it obviously economy?
Look, for a country to work effectively, you have to maximize prosperity and generalize it a reasonable amount. I don't mean a leveling egalitarianism. That's just Marxism, and it doesn't work, and it's not desirable anyway. But particularly a very rich country like this, you want to make sure that it's as rich as it can be responsibly. We shouldn't have a lower standard of living than the Netherlands, a country that has no natural resources, or even than Australia, which is a rich country, but not as rich as we are and not as many people.
In your book, you also suggest that perhaps a solution would be a return to a partial gold standard.
Well, I discuss a number of innovations, and one of them is in the currency area. Somebody is going to have to bring back a hard currency. Essentially, since the 1930s, there hasn't been a hard currency in traditional terms. They're only really valued against other currencies, so they're all losing value together, just at different rates. Like a bunch of mountain climbers tied together, one falls down, I think a gold standard itself would not work now. It would put too much power in the hands of a small number of miners and engineers. But I think my idea, I'm not militant about this, was actually somewhat similar to Keynes, whom in most respects I don't agree with, but that, let us say, a gold oil, which has now become a pariah resource anyway, gold, oil, and some kind of consumer basket of some sort.
How do you personally view gold? I work on Wall Street, and it's not the most favorable asset.
Well,
but how do you see
the
it?
equities market? Right. But I see it as a safe haven in times of crisis. And as you know better than I do, the gold price spikes when there's acute political uncertainty. But I don't think you lose money on gold if you're not concerned about predictability of capital appreciation and yield as you go along. Obviously, there's no dividend on gold. You either buy it or hold it or sell it.